Rev up your engines!
Racks Up Visual says, hey Scotty, how do you feel about the Fiat Renault merger? You'd have to say Fiat, Chrysler, Renault, Nissan merger, because then they'd all be merged together. I just find it humorous that some of the worst car companies in the world are all merging together. Why are the people merging? Because they're failing, and they think if they get bigger, then they'll have less of a chance to fail because there's more and more of them. From what I've seen and from what I've read, Fiat itself is even thinking about pulling out of the United States market because their sales are so bad. Nobody wants to buy those crappy Fiats in the United States that they're talking about pulling out. Give you an example. The Fiat 500, the second or the third year they introduced it, they sold like 55,000 in the United States. Last year they sold less than 5,000. Nobody's buying those piles of junk anymore because people have figured it out. So good luck if they can all merge together and be one big giant glob, and then you can stay away from them. Scotty's friend. Hey Scotty, I'm from Singapore. Are the modern German-made Mercedes well made? Yes. The thing is, here in the United States, a lot of the Mercedes are made somewhere else. The quality of them isn't as good. It's just a fact. Ask any mechanic who works on them. They'll tell you that. Because I've made videos saying how Mercedes have problems in the United States, and then I get personal emails from guys in Germany. Some of them are German Mercedes mechanics, and they say, well, Scotty, you know, from what we read, you're probably right. The ones here in Germany, it's pretty well built, last a long time. The ones in the United States, it's kind of a combo of things, because the ones in the United States are generally the higher end ones with all the extra crap on them. So what's going to happen? The things are going to break down more because they got more garbage on them, more electronics that's going to break. The more expensive cars and the luxury cars almost always break down earlier. They have this extra technology. It isn't totally proven and has problems. But the ones made in Germany, they seem to be the best. But my own customers here that have ones that are made in Germany, yeah, I got to say, they're better made cars. Fuck all 3, 2, 1. I have an '07 Tundra, 5.7. I noticed a slight hesitation going up a hill, but otherwise it runs fine. Okay, you have a hesitation under load. Whenever your vehicle is being strained the most, such as going uphill and accelerating, if there's any problems under that load, it's going to show up. Knowing something like that, it's 13 years old, first change the fuel filter. Just a dirty little fuel filter will do that. Give it not enough fuel when you're accelerating, it'll hesitate. Now, it's 13 years old. I don't know how you've taken care of it. Let's say you never change the spark plugs. Well, change them now. You know, they do wear out eventually. But if the spark plugs are okay, a lot of times it's just a dirty fuel filter or even a really dirty air filter. I had a customer once with one who wouldn't pass the state emissions test. All I did was pop off the air cleaner, plastic cover, and there's the air filter. It was black, covered with crud. Put it in and it passed just by changing the air filter. You got to check things once in a while, you know? Nothing lasts forever. Canuck Fix It says, Scotty, I got an '04 PT Cruiser, turbo 5-speed that has an OBD2 misfire code and cylinder number 4. You want to pray it's not the head gasket blowing, but I can just about guarantee you, if you change the spark plug and the ignition coil on number 4 and you still have it, it's the head gasket starting to blow. Poorly made, poorly designed, and they blow head gaskets all the time. I had so many customers that owned them that the head gaskets blew, I lost count. If it isn't the spark plug or the coil on plug, change them. They're cheap and easy. You can do it yourself. How to tell if your head gasket's blown. And use that little test. You can get it at Amazon, the test kit for like 30 bucks. And if it is, my advice is get rid of the thing. Nobody rebuilds the engines in those things, especially a turbo. It's not worth the money. The car's not worth the money it'll cost to do it right. See, Family 4, what do you mean when you say a car has a weak transmission? I see you throw this phrase around a lot. Okay, well, just what it says, weak. Take like a Chrysler minivan, especially ones that were made 10 years and older. They had weak transmissions. They were poorly designed, poorly built, and they broke down all the time from inherent faults of either design or manufacturing. PT Cruiser has weak head gaskets because the engine wasn't designed that well, the head gaskets weren't built out that well, and they have a tendency of blowing head gaskets, which is a very expensive thing to fix by tearing the engine down. Anytime I say something is weak, it's some years of experience in my head that I remember of, okay, that model, this broke, this model, that broke. You always want to look out for weak points of cars when you're thinking about buying it. Do a little research before you buy a car. Don't buy any new car that is a new model with all kinds of new designs. Wait till they've been out 4 or 5 years to see, and then, hey, if they show that they were reliable and the new models are the same design, go ahead and buy one. But me, I'll buy the used one and save a lot more money. But still, you want to know a little history about something before you buy it. M. Julius, I saw that the stock gap for spark plugs on my 2010 Scion XB is 0.7 millimeter, but I got a Denso one that's got a different gap. What should I do? Okay, don't use those plugs. Go buy ones that are gapped correctly. Most modern spark plugs are non-gappable. You're not supposed to change the gap. They're designed for whatever size they were. So go back to an auto parts store and get ones that are 0.7 millimeter gapped. And I mean, these days, I don't trust anybody. So when I buy spark plugs, before I put them in a customer's car, I get my wire gapper, because the wire spark plug gappers are better. You can get those cheap little gaps that have the ramp on it, that have all the different gaps on the ramp, but they're not all that accurate. The wire ones are the most accurate. You can go to Amazon, buy one for like $5. Then you put the different size wire gaps until it just barely touches, then you know that's what the gap of it is. And always use the factory gap. Don't mess around with it. Engineers design that stuff. You don't want to fool with it. Rhea Sarah says, I got a new OEM fuel cap and a leak code went away. Now I'm getting a low purge flow instead. Okay, here is the thing. When it finds a problem, like say leaking gas cap, it stops analyzing, and it'll just keep showing that it's got the leaking gas cap. Well, if you fix that, now the computer will keep analyzing down the line. And I've seen it many times with those stupid evap systems that they have one code and you fix the actual problem, a leaking gas cap, then you find out there's another problem, and that's because the computer is now analyzing the whole thing. So if you have low purge flow, a lot of times it's a bad evap canister vent valve. You could just guess with that. Now, if you don't want to guess, the problem is you're going to have to pay a mechanic like me to analyze the system, because the only way you can really and truly analyze those evap systems is with the dealer level scan tool that does bidirectional testing, where you can test each section piece by piece. It's really complex nonsense. I personally find it a load of crap to keep a little bit of fuel vapor from evaporating into the atmosphere, but that's the way the laws are nowadays. So you got to go through all these systems. It can get very expensive and take a lot of time to figure out what's wrong, but that's the only way you can do it with a bidirectional scan tool. You can't just start guessing with parts, other than, like I said, if you want to guess the evap canister purge valve, if yours is easy to get to, change that. A lot of times it'll fix it. As Madman, I've heard you talk about factories in China are new and modern with the new factories. Do you think in the future we're all going to be driving around in well-built Chinese cars? Who knows about forecasting the future, but that very well could be the case. I mean, I would always see the Japanese that build the cars in Japan. They're still going to be well-built cars. There's no arguing that. They've got an industry. They'll keep it up. They sell a lot of cars worldwide. But, of course, now a lot of their cars are made in other countries. I don't know. I can see the Chinese have modern factories and put out good products. People are going to buy them. When I was a young mechanic in the 60s, people talked about Japanese cars. They said I had Jap crap, bunch of ricer garbage. It's nonsense. Well, look where it is now. You know, they're selling cars to everybody. And people would say, I remember Pearl Harbor. Well, hardly anybody remembers it anymore, and everybody's driving around in Japanese cars. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.